everyone, and welcome to another edition of Meet the Creator. I'm going to be talking to L Norry about her new book, which is called Fablehouse. So lovely to meet you, Emma. Very nice to see you here. We do usually ask people to start with a reading, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of a taste of what the book's about.
Yeah, of course, I'd love to. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to read from not quite the beginning. This is where Heather, our main character, is being challenged by a couple of kids from the village. The girl's plaits whipped in the breeze. This land don't belong to you. She sounded so outraged, you'd think her own fair hands had built this whole place. My ma says you lot are an abomination. The boys spat on the ground. My dad says the woman who runs that broken down old home is a freak, a weird old witch. Dad reckons you darkies should be put to work. Do something useful for us who put food in your bellies. I stared at the horrible globule of spit and leaned back on the stones a little, feeling their support and weight. A sharp edge dug into my lower back, forced my mouth open. I ain't working for no one, nor going anywhere neither. The girl's tight sneer vanished. Leave or, my throat burned with anger. I felt that if I opened my mouth any wider, I could scorch her with the fire from my heart. Or we'll make you, said the boy. He rolled up his sleeves and picked up a stone. He turned it over in his palm before throwing it close enough to hit my boot. I stared at the stone. With that first stone thrown, silence fell over us. A wisp of menace now on the wind. Decisions needed to be made, and fast. Fight or flight. Lightning quick, I rushed forward and bopped the girl on the nose. She staggered back, surprised, cupping her nose, eyes shiny with tears. Oh, I'd gone and done it now. I wish the cairn could swallow me whole. I was out here alone, and no one knew it. It was 2 against 1. I prepared myself. No time for regrets. I crouched, preparing to tackle Red, take his legs out from under him, and then I'd run. Red lumbered forward, pulling his arm back, hand in a fist. Ow! He stumbled, whipping his head around as something glanced off his cheek. Bog off! Cried a voice that I recognized. Arlene? I rolled back my shoulders and stood up straight. Arlene, Nat, and Lloyd leaned out from behind the tree in the glade and raced towards us. I hadn't spoken much to any of them, really. Although me and Arlene shared a room, all I knew about her was that she liked to sing day and night. She loved having her hair done, always looking perfect. Her hair in fancy plaits tied with red ribbons and bows. Nat was 9 and excitable as a puppy, always wanting to play, chattering away to the chickens and practicing magic tricks to anyone who'd watch. And well, I'd already formed my theories about Lloyd. What were they doing here? I did not need rescuing. The girl screamed, No one wants you! Says who? Shrieked Nat, back fierce, his usual goofy grin wiped out. My ma says you lot should get lost. Striding forward, hands on hips, Arlene said, Bet your ma wishes she could get rid of you and all. You trying to be smart? The boy grunted, frowning. Arlene poked her tongue out. I don't really need to try. Red looked like he wanted to thrash her. Although the village kids were bigger and older, they exchanged a shifty glance, like they must have known, sensed somehow, that they weren't a match for the 4 of us. Animals, the boy muttered, scuffing up dirt as he backed off. Roar, hollered Nat, hooking his fingers into claws and baring his gnashers. I stifled a laugh. Come on, let's go, Mary. Bye, Scary Mary, Arlene chirruped, giving her the V's.
Perfect. Thank you very much. There is nothing we enjoy more than listening to an author reading from their book. It's just such a delight. Such a delight. So to share with everybody else, so it's set in an orphanage, but it's a particular type of orphanage. So would you mind telling us about that and where the inspiration for it came from? Because I know there's an inspiration in real life where the orphanage came from, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. So the project, the original idea, came to me via a lady called Jasmine Richards, who runs a company called Story Mix. That the whole kind of ethos is making sure that, you know, children of different minorities are seen as the heroes of their stories. So she approached me about the project, but the inspiration behind it, we both did lots of research, and it's a fascinating story. So Jasmine knew that she wanted to blend Arthurian myth, but then we found out this place called Honeycoat House, which was an orphanage in the 1950s. And there's a whole section of history that I didn't know anything about. There's been a book written by a woman called Lucy Bland called Britain's Brown Babies. And basically, it tells the real life history of after the Second World War, there were white women who had had children with Black American GIs, and the US Army forbid the GIs to marry their girlfriends, if they were wanting to get married. And over 2,000 babies were separated from their parents. 1,000 of them went on to be housed in orphanages around the country. And so Fablehouse is based on a real place called Honeycoat House that was an orphanage in the 50s. Yeah.
And as you say, I knew nothing about this.
No, me neither, until I'd seen this Britain's Brown Babies and read about this book. A whole section of history fascinating that I absolutely knew nothing about. Yeah, I kind of, once you know something, it's really hard to not, unknow it, kind of thing. And I actually can't believe that, that it's been buried for so long, that history.
No, you cannot imagine a world where you'd have an orphanage just for mixed race babies because their parents weren't allowed to marry. It sounds like fiction,
doesn't it?
Read about it. Yeah, it does.
And I think, it's kind of like it's kind of fascinating because a lot of the children that were there in the 50s, so Honeycoat House, we had to fictionalize a lot of things, obviously, but the real Honeycoat House was for babies, baby babies and toddlers. Obviously that's not going to work for a story where kids need to run around and have agency, so we aged them up a lot. But the children that were there in the 50s, they're still alive now as adults. And there was a program on about the war babies, the mixed race babies, a few months ago. Oh, I think it was on Channel 4, but it's still available to be seen, I think. And it was just really moving, where, people are trying to trace their fathers, some with some success, some not. Just whole, thousands of children not having that connection with their past, with their fathers, with their identity, with their race. And I grew up in care, so there was a lot of things I could deeply empathize with that kind of wove their way into the story.
So, talk about Heather, our main protagonist, who I loved. I love Heather. I think she's absolutely wonderful, and the way that she progresses mentally and in her outlook on life during the story is just a joy to see. So I've got to ask, is there any of you in Heather?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. I think the minute I started writing the first chapter, I was inspired already by something that I'd gone through when I was kind of Heather's age, really, which was, I grew up in a children's home, and I do remember literally being chased around the place with a metal afro comb that was agony, with the staff who wanted to brush my hair, which was, a huge afro, and that wasn't my favorite thing, getting my hair brushed. So yeah, I do think that sometimes, elements of who we are and people that we've met, they all kind of feed into our characters if we're going to make 3D realistic characters that feel true. And yeah, I was definitely drawing on my own childhood experiences to create Heather. Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of guessed that. I absolutely loved the whole Arthurian legend slant to it as well. Was that something that yourself as a child was interested in, or did you have to do research on that sort of thing?
Yeah, no, I wasn't a big fantasy or Arthurian myths fan as a child at all. They weren't kind of on my radar, really. But I'm a fan now. Yeah, I knew the basics of King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table, and had read, a few things when I was little, but kind of delving into the research, reading different myths and legends, watching films, watching inspiration. And I love retelling, so I kind of watched a lot of Merlin, the series, and different film versions. And yeah, I really got into it. In the published book, in this finished copy, there's a bonus chapter that I had just, free reign to write. And that was fantastic choosing Pal to tell the children a story of, one of the most famous myths, but then imagining that he was there. So yeah, the opportunity to sort of have a Black Knight, because Palamedes, is in the real mythology, he's a Saracen, so he definitely wasn't, a white guy. And just to imagine his feelings of kind of being on the outside, but desperately trying to prove himself, was also really appealing and kind of tied in with the children's journeys, emotional journey as well, I think.
I'm glad you mentioned that bonus chapter, because I only received my physical copy yesterday. So
Okay.
I read it as an e-copy. So I kind of feel as though I've been given a little present, because I can sit there and read that bonus chapter now, which I haven't had the chance to do yet, which is fabulous. But some of the other things in the book, I mean, I think the production values of the book are wonderful. I haven't also yet looked at all the symbols.
Aha.
If you could explain to the others what the symbols are for, because there's a symbol at the start of each chapter, isn't there?
Yes. Yes. So in the story, with the kind of magical element, there's without too many spoilers, but there's a book that Heather comes across, a kind of magical book, and also when the children are very influenced by the cairn, which is a tower of mysterious stones that kind of is where they find Pal and has a connection to another world, and how they get access to that world, symbols come into it quite a bit. So yeah, so at the beginning of each chapter there's a lovely illustration, and there's a little symbol, and I think as a reader you might find, if you get the final copy and you take note of the symbols, we all love a puzzle, don't we?
We do indeed. We do indeed. And I shall be having a look later. I will definitely be having a look later today, because I didn't know that was there. The other thing I thought was great, actually, at the end of the book is the resources that are provided at the end of the book.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fantastic idea. If people want to find out more about the history behind it, etc., etc., there's some absolutely wonderful resources there as well. So, just want to draw people's attention to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing it's been so amazing, because the history side of it has just been really fascinating.
Yeah.
So, at the end of June, Bloomsbury have organized an event, and we're going to be at the Foundling Museum, which is a lovely, amazing place in London. If people don't know it, it's definitely worth a visit. Very moving, very inspirational. So we're doing an event at the Foundling Museum, and I'm going to be on a panel, like, I feel a bit like, it's quite an honor, but I'm going to be on a panel with Lucy Bland, who wrote the book Britain's Brown Babies, and Chamian, who runs a museum, an online museum called the Mixed Museum, which at the moment has a massive exhibition all about the Britain's Brown Babies. You can go into kind of each person's history, see loads of photographs, which I used as my inspiration throughout. And so the resources are great, but there's going to be events that are kind of linking in with that. And on the panel, there's going to be a lady called Anne Evans, who was an original brown baby. She was at Honeycoat House. And to have those kind of, people read my book and kind of appreciate the kind of research and the reality behind it, it's just bringing the knowledge and the history to a wider audience, I think, which is exciting, really exciting, I think.
It sounds it.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, because I think it helps not just for children, but anyone to sort of see things in context, really.
Yeah.
So it's nice to kind of take those elements, and obviously, Pal and King Arthur we haven't got an event with Pal and King Arthur, I'm afraid, but that would be nice. Here's a changeling. Yeah. But just kind of seeing those little elements of reality and how they kind of merge with fiction, I think, is always really interesting.
Okay, well, as a last question, I've got to ask this, because I really, really enjoyed the book. This isn't going to be a standalone, is it? We are going to see more of the Romas, I hope. Oh,
thank you very much. That's very kind. Yes, there is a book 2. there is just a book 2. There's not, it's not a endless 10-book series or anything. But yes, I'm just finishing up edits on book 2 now, so we definitely see more of the Romas. I couldn't, we couldn't just leave them there, could we really?
No, not really. No, this is it. It seems as though we will want to know more about how things develop for them and what's going on. So you've just made me very happy, because I'm really pleased that I'm going to be able to read another one about the Romans. I thought, as a group of friends, when they come together, they make such a good group, because they've all got so many different strengths, and they are a source of strength for each other, aren't they? Which I think is just wonderful. It's a lovely portrayal of friendship as well. That's what I really liked.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yeah, book 2's coming next April. And yeah, very, interesting seeing how those friendships strengthen, develop, if anything comes to, get in between them. Yeah, it's great fun to write.
Excellent. Well, I'm very much looking forward to reading that. And best of luck with the event at the end of the month. That sounds really great. And thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. And yeah, would thoroughly recommend anyone that's watching to read it. It is fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Pure escapism, but I also love the fact that it taught me things that I didn't know about history, and took me in different directions as well. So thank you very much, Emma, and it was lovely talking to you.
Thank you very much, Bev. And I hope if anyone does read Fablehouse that you enjoy it, because it's all about how we've got, our own unique magic and, as Bev said, the power of friendship. Thank you.